Hello and welcome all to the concept discussion video by Neva IAS. The theme for this video is cybersecurity. This is the third video in our series, and in this video we are going to discuss the challenges with respect to cybersecurity. In the first video we discussed definition and different types. In the second video we discussed the need and significance, and in this video we are going to discuss the different challenges associated with it. So I'll just bring back the definition to your memory once. It is cybersecurity is the practice of protecting electronic information from unauthorized access or theft. So this is the definition, the details of which is explained in the first video. Now let's move to the challenges. I have identified 8 challenges here. Everything will be explained one by one in this. And the first challenge is computer literacy. Now, you take the case of India. Let's take the National Sample Survey. If we take the National Sample Survey, the latest one, Multiple Indicator Survey, it says that of all the people who are aged above 15 in India, only 24% has computer literacy. So computer literacy is a very basic thing. It's about typing, it's about using basic applications in the computer, and only 24% prefers that. So imagine the number of people who can in fact identify what a cyber threat is. That number will be even lower, maybe not even 15%. If this is the case, and we are a country with a penetration of smartphone up to 850 million, which is 85 crore. If this is the penetration of smartphones, and if this is the literacy that we have, then that is a problem. So that is the first challenge with respect to cybersecurity. And there are multiple reasons for the lack of computer literacy in India. First of all, we have an issue of literacy in the first place. Then we have lack of access to advanced tools. For example, you need a computer in the first place to understand that. Now, how many people have a computer in their house now? Third is financial constraint. If you have to go somewhere and take a coaching or take a training, then you need finance. Now that becomes a challenge. You need device, then you need training. And you don't have basic literacy to understand it directly as well. Finally, lack of awareness. Why should I study computer in the first place? Only if people feel the need to do that, they'll do it. Even if they have all these things, they should be aware about the need for computer literacy. So that is also lacking. So for all these reasons, in India, there is only 24% computer literacy at present, which is a major cybersecurity threat. Moving to the second reason, which is called skill gap. For example, in every sector, we have employees. For example, take the case of a private sector company. This company has 100 employees, out of which only 33% possess the ability to detect cyber attacks. So that means there is a skill gap of 77%. Or if this company needs 100 employees, specially for cyber security, and the company is able to find only 50 people. So there is a skill gap of 50 people. That is called the gap. So the demanded potential of cyber security professionals is not met in the company. And those who are working, they are not equipped to deal with this as well. See the stats here. 60% of Indian firms have unfulfilled cyber security positions, something similar to what I explained here. 42% companies say that their cybersecurity teams are understaffed. Again, I told you 100 people, but only 50 people are there because 50 cannot be found. Next, 65% companies report difficulties in retention of cybersecurity talent because people who are equipped with the necessary skills cannot be found. So for all these reasons, we have something called the skill gap. That's the second reason. Moving to the third reason, what do we need to equip our employees or to give training or to have access to financial resources? We need funding. Now this is the data from the 2024 budget, the latest budget. The outlay is 1550 crore for AI research and tackling cyber crimes. Second, there is an outlay of 238 crores for the nodal agency for cyber security. Then there is India AI mission that is getting rupees 551 crores. Now total, there will be an outlay of almost 2.5 thousand crore, 2.5k, which is 2500 crore. Now do you think that is enough? 2500 crore is nothing compared to the kind of proliferation that is there in the field. Cyber threat is growing at a very alarming scale. And to meet that scale, we don't need this funding. We cannot blame the government because the government has a lot of priorities. In a developing country like India, we cannot dwell a lot of fund for cyber security alone. We have people, we have to give rations to 80 crore people. So we are a country that still gives ration to 80 crore people. So for a country to spend 2,500 crore to cyber security is itself a luxury. So we have to understand our situation, but that creates a lot of infrastructural challenges in the country. Moving to the next reason, private sector. Now see, our country has 473 million workforce, among which only a very minimal portion, say 10 to 15 million, works in the public sector. The rest is employed in the private sector. And in this sector, you need better finances. The investment has to come from the private sector, and you need better trained personnels who can deal with this. We have already seen that the people are ill-equipped because in the point of skill gap, I have illustrated that. Now, because of the large extent of private sector and lack of funding, this sector is very much vulnerable in India. Only 4% of the firms are equipped to deal with cybersecurity threats. You can have a look at the stats here. This is a stats from CERT, Cyber Emergency Response Team in India. It says that in 2017, the number of attacks were only 53,117. It rose to 14 lakhs. See the manifold increase in a span of 4 years. Now, this is what happens when you have revolutionary and disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence. To meet with that, you need to equip every sector in the economy, and especially the private sector, which is lacking. So the next point is private sector. Another point, suppose there is an attack on your phone. You don't know how to deal with it. You're a private employee, you don't have computer literacy, you go to the police. What if the police doesn't know how to deal with it? Or what if they don't have the necessary equipment to outshine or outsmart the hackers? This is yet another issue. The police lacks training, or they lack advanced equipments to deal or outsmart the hackers, because they possess the hackers. The hackers can be external states as well. Okay, keep this in mind. And they possess state of art technology, the latest cutting edge technology. And very often our police is not catching up with that. So that is another challenge. Next challenge is the transnational nature of these crimes. For example, when you are being looted some money in India, it can be done through a VPN. VPN means your IP address will be masked. So the real culprit will be placed somewhere in Middle East, but in fact, the VPN will be reflecting United States, or it can be the other way as well. So you need multi-country coordination to deal with cyber crimes. Or you take the case of Apple iPhones. iPhones are manufactured in China. They are assembled also in China, but they originally belong as a US company. So the administrative decisions will come from US. Suppose iPhone is used for a cyber crime. And if you have to break the password and look at the end-to-end encrypted messages, then you need permission coming from US. So you need coordination from this country to solve that crime. So such an infrastructure is lacking. We had the Budapest Treaty, but that is a very limited treaty. You need an international treaty to deal with this because the nature of crime is transnational. Now, even if we have a treaty, the nature of crime being transnational leads to something called latency. Latency means delay in response. The next point is with respect to the attitude of dealing with it. So in the first class, I've told you about 3 pillars of cybersecurity. One is prevention. Second is detection. Third is response. Prevention means you prevent an attack from happening. Detection means once the attack has come, you will detect it. Third, response means the attack is over, but you are responding to it. You are just seeing how to deal with it. Now in India, 99% of the actions are in this domain, response. And even when we respond, there is a delay. For example, CERT is an agency that is dedicated to deal with cyber crimes. It is Cyber Emergency Response Team. There was a bug that was found in their official website, and it took them 11 months to deal with that. So imagine an issue that is in-house took 11 months to deal. So imagine the issue that can take place to 1.4 billion people, and the occupancy or the efficiency of agencies like this to deal with that. So there needs to be a complete revamp in this strategy of response, and we have to have proper firewalls to protect our devices from cybersecurity threats. The final point, this is data. So data is the new oil. So just like how oil controlled the economy of 20th century, so in 20th century, we were an economy that was driven by fossil fuels. Whoever had petroleum had the control over the world. Take for example the Middle Eastern countries. They became extremely rich because of the oil reserves. Now data is the new oil. How is data the new oil? Because those who have data can control the narratives of the world. For example, you have data of 1.4 billion people from India. Now this data is supposedly related to the age, gender, the consumer preferences, the health conditions. Now this data can be used by a multinational corporation to market their goods. So this data is of value to this multinational corporation. This can be used by a pharmaceutical company to devise a program. This can be used by a software company to launch a social media platform. So data is of use for everyone, and this data comes with a lot of value. And this data can be extracted, it can be stolen, it can be sold. For example, our Aadhaar data was taken, our CoWIN data was taken. These things were sold in something called the dark web. So Aadhaar even has your biometric data, and this data will have takers. So see, for example, take the case of this thing, software as a service. When we are using something like the Google Docs, Google is providing the software as a service to us, whereas Google is an international company. So as a country, the Indian government has limited control over an international MNC. So the data that is used by the Indian users will travel across the world, and it will be in the control of the service provider. And who has control over data? How can this data be regulated? This data can be extremely sensitive as well. So data regulation is the final point. This is something that is a big issue that needs a lot of framework rules and lot of technological upgradation to regulate. So that's the final challenge. And I've given the example as well. Software as a service can be used as an example. So all the 8 points are clear, I believe. These are the challenges. In the coming sections, we will deal with the government initiatives to deal with this, as well as the way forward to tackle cybersecurity crimes. Thank you for listening.